I won't always be there and look out for you. If we get separated or something happens, you need to be able to make it on your own. Don't be afraid. Just remember what I taught you and trust your instincts. I know you can do this, Ahsoka.
Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Hey there guys, Unofficial Star Wars here. Hope you're all doing well, and welcome to my Ahsoka Episode 7 breakdown video / review. We are going to be going over a number of references, things that you guys might have missed throughout this episode, as well as an overall Easter egg breakdown. With Ahsoka Episode 7, of course, I'll be sure to sprinkle throughout some of my own thoughts throughout the video, as well as a number of theories throughout this video here as well, so all the more reason to stay tuned for that. Of course, it should also go without saying that yes, there are spoilers ahead for Ahsoka Episode 7. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's absolutely amazing. My non-spoiler review on that is that it's absolutely amazing. Go check it out. So, hopping into it. After a couple of weeks without Hera Syndulla appearing, we opened Episode 7 of Ahsoka with Hera facing down the New Republic Council. Senator Ziano isn't happy with Hera Syndulla's previous actions of leading an unauthorized mission to stop Grand Admiral Thrawn, finding Ezra Bridger and allowing Ahsoka and Yu Yang to escape on a space whale ride on the Purgle to get to this other galaxy. Chancellor Mon Mothma watches the proceedings as Hera and Senator Ziano debate back and forth about whether or not there is an Imperial remnant or threats still even running around. Carson Teva interjects, bringing up the events of The Mandalorian's 3rd season, when Moff Gideon tried to take over Mandalore. Well, he kinda did take over Mandalore, but that's besides the point. In a twist to the proceedings though, however, everybody's favorite 3PO suddenly arrives at the courtroom. Mon Mothma welcomes the droid in, who is speaking for Senator Leia Organa, an excellent way to keep Leia in the story when Carrie Fisher can't be here with us. 3PO has a data transcript of where Leia has sanctioned Hera's missions, and she actually didn't know that Senator Ziano was against it. Needless to say, Ziano is very upset, but can't fight it. Hera is off the hook. Mon Mothma, after the proceedings, pulls Hera to the side and wants to know how real the threat of Thrawn actually really is. Hera warns her that it's real as the title card plays out, Part 7, Dreams and Madness. Ahsoka makes a return this week, of course, as she practices her lightsaber forms while passing the time. A hologram of Anakin Skywalker plays as if she's watching her. It's an old lesson from the Clone Wars. Yu Yang enters as the hologram ends to let her know that the Purgle are reaching the end of their journey. And as I had mentioned in our reaction video / initial thoughts video here on the channel for Ahsoka Episode 7, I called it, and I knew it. We would see more of Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker in the final 2 episodes, and that's exactly what we got to see. I wonder if we will see more of him down the road, outside of the Ahsoka show. They plan to find the enemy in order to find Sabine Wren as the Purgle jumps out of hyperspace. Ahsoka senses something is wrong though, however, with the Purgle as they emerge into a minefield set by Thrawn. The Purgle jump to hyperspace for safety as our heroes face off against Thrawn's awaiting fighters. Ahsoka flies into the debris field of the Purgle bones and just dead bodies to try and avoid the enemy. Back on the planet's surface, Thrawn, Captain Enoch, and Morgan Elsbeth convene to discuss Ahsoka's arrival. Thrawn sees on a data pad that her master was Anakin Skywalker. Now, I have a whole nother video discussing this here on the channel already, but essentially this is important. A very short version of why this is important is that there is a book by Timothy Zahn called Thrawn Alliances, one of the original Thrawn novels, where Thrawn and Anakin teamed up for a mission. Thrawn was gathering information for his people, the Chiss, while Anakin was looking for his wife, Padme Amidala. Later, Thrawn teams up with Darth Vader down the timeline during the Age of the Rebellion and the Rise of the Empire in that same book, and figured out that Anakin and Vader are actually the same person. Thrawn and Anakin knew each other, and therefore Thrawn knew Anakin's tactics and assumed that they have been passed on to Ahsoka. And I'm not really gonna lie, I held out a slight bit of hope that maybe Thrawn is willing to actually work aside with Ahsoka Tano, seeing that that's what he did with her master in that novel, having worked with both Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. So, back to the episode. Thrawn has Captain Enoch pull back his fighters to allow Ahsoka to continue on her own path and try to stay ahead of her. Ahsoka and Huyang realize Thrawn knows that they're there, when we then shift to Ezra Bridger and Sabine, who are traveling with the Nodai species, these little turtle fellers that Ezra has been kind of hanging out with and living with for the past decade, as they relocate to a new location, never staying in one spot for too long. Sabine gave him the rundown of what's happened to their friends after the events of Star Wars Rebels, what's pretty much happened with the entirety of the galaxy in the last 10 years, but not how she has found him specifically. Ezra says that they must get home, and Sabine reveals that Ahsoka is her master even, though she believes that Ahsoka is dead. She never reveals this and kind of beats around the bush with Ezra Bridger, thinking that Ahsoka of course is dead, and honestly this is something I did kind of forget about, that she thought that Ahsoka is dead, even though she's alive and well. Tracking the heroes are Baylan Skoll and his apprentice Shin Hati, and the bandits who live on Peridia. They're essentially like sand people, maybe in the main galaxy on Tatooine. Thrawn calls upon the Great Mother Night Sisters to find Ahsoka Tano in the Purgle graveyard. During this, Ahsoka reaches out through the Force to Sabine and connects with her. This also allows the Great Mothers, the Night Sisters, to find her, and Thrawn permits Enoch, Captain Enoch, to open fire on Ahsoka and Huyang from the Eye of Sion. It's a race through the graveyard as Ahsoka is flushed out to head down to the planet even further. Back with Ezra and Sabine, they're found by Baylan and his apprentice Shin, and in a twist, Baylan actually tells Shin to go off and do the dirty work, to kill Ezra and Sabine, and to take her place in this new empire. Shin realizes that he's not coming with her. He gives her a final lesson, a final few wise words, and sends his apprentice on her way with the bandits to attack the Nodai, Ezra, and Sabine. Thrawn also sends in his own men to assist with Shin, but of course Shin asks the question of that we're all asking and wondering, why isn't Baylan going with her? Why is he just kind of dipping last minute? And this will probably hopefully be revealed in the final episode, the finale episode, episode 8 of Ahsoka, but it was revealed in the previous episode, episode 6, that Baylan reveals to his apprentice Shin that something's calling to him, and he's going to go off on a little bit of a side quest, it seems, to go figure that out, as we also saw later on in this episode that he does kind of stand his ground one last time between Ahsoka and himself, with one more rematch, one more duel between those two. So the battle breaks out as Sabine and Ezra defend the Nodai from the bandits, though the little hermit crab people get into the action too. They circle up the space wagons right about when Ahsoka and Shin arrive. Ezra and Sabine come out to make their stand, and Ahsoka jumps out of her ship while Huyang pulls the fighter away, being chased still, mind you. But Ahsoka is met by Baylan Skoll on the hilltop. They both pull their lightsabers up as the music kicks up, and they duel, having a rematch. Speaking of sabers, Sabine tries to give Ezra back his lightsaber, but he refuses it, and even a blaster, refusing that, only saying that he needs the Force. They take on the bandits one by one. Shin jumps into the fray, facing Ezra and Sabine simultaneously at the same time. Huyang provides cover for Ahsoka from the air as well. She swipes a howler and rides away, leaving Baylan behind, seemingly defeating him. As the Night Troopers, Thrawn's army, pour out onto the battlefield though, however, from afar, Thrawn notices that Baylan isn't there anymore, and it's just Shin. Night Troopers surround Ezra and Sabine, but Ahsoka arrives to even out the odds. And as the tides are turning, Thrawn calls back all of his troops, seeing that this is a victory, if for anything, at least in his own eyes. Morgan Elsbeth is aghast, seeing it only as a defeat. Thrawn shows her why he is doing all of this though, however. Their enemy was distracted, which means that their cargo transfer is now complete. They can leave without the Jedi in tow, which means the heroes could be stranded on this other planet, Peridia, in another galaxy, far, far away. The Night Troopers then retreat, leaving behind Shin, who hops on a howler to get the heck out of there. But before she does that, of course, Ahsoka reaches out a hand, hoping that she would take it and join them, coming back to the light side of the Force, if she was ever even there, saying that she doesn't have to go back to her master Baylan. There is undoubtedly a lot more going on with Shin. I feel like that this has been something that's been theorized throughout the entirety of the show here at this point, is that she will come back to the light side of the Force, or come back to it just in general. Ahsoka hugs Ezra and greets Sabine, having a mini reunion, very warming to the heart. Huyang arrives to pick them all up, and the penultimate episode of Ahsoka ends on an uplifting note. Granted though, however, there's still so much more to do and wrap up in the finale episode of episode 8, coming out next week of course. This episode has done just about everything. It checks off all of those boxes, having that nostalgia of Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker, 3PO, a Leia mention, a mention of the Mandalorian Season 3 in there as well. I felt like was a bit of a underrated detail, if for anything. Having plenty of action, Ezra Bridger, Sabine, Ahsoka making a return, Baylan Skoll, Shin-Hati, Thrawn and his tactic, shenanigans, of course, again, absolutely amazing. I loved every moment of this episode. Once again, I feel like that none of these episodes of Ahsoka have really missed, ever since episode 4 with Hayden Christensen popping up at the end of that episode. All of these episodes have been just absolutely, perfect. Although I do hold a bit of a concern for the finale episode of episode 8. I'll discuss this probably in a little bit more detail and a little bit more depth here on the channel in a separate feature video here on the channel. All the more reason to grab that subscribe button. We're also discussing and covering all types of Star Wars related news, leaks, rumors, theories, and breakdowns here on the channel. But maybe they took off more than they could chew, essentially, and I feel like that they just have a lot to do in wrapping things up for Ahsoka episode 8, and also with the fact of that I don't really necessarily feel that this episode 7 did a lot for maybe getting us as hyped as we should be for Ahsoka episode 8, leaving us on a cliffhanger. Of course, I'm very glad that they left us on a happy, uplifting note of a reunion between Ezra, Ahsoka, and Sabine, but let's not forget that Thrawn and his shenanigans are getting there, and that he's playing the long game here. Of course, their cargo transfer is now complete, and they're getting underway with that. They'll be able to head up to the Eye of Sion and make a jump from there, heading back to their own Star Wars galaxy, seemingly leaving our heroes stranded there. There doesn't necessarily seem any way back for our heroes unless more Purgles suddenly arrive, or whatever the case may be for that. Undoubtedly though, of course, Ahsoka, just season 1 here, is playing the long game here as well, just as an overall narrative and storytelling here as well, which I absolutely love. It's just a smaller puzzle piece to such a much wider and bigger expansive Mandoverse and universe here during this specific time in the franchise, of course. So with this all being said, guys, of course, I would love to hear all of your own thoughts and opinions and theories in the comment section down below. Of course, I'll be discussing so much more with just overall Ahsoka episode 7, and everything to come in the finale episode in the next week here on the channel. Of course, all the more reason to grab that subscribe button, as I had mentioned. Thanks so much for watching today's video. Of course, this has been Unofficial Star Wars. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.